This is a great story, and this is a great guy. What is your favorite part of this story?
I think just the sheer number, 3,000 games, and you think about the evolution that he's had to make over that time. I mean, I'm doing a live shot right now from my car. Smartphones didn't exist when David Poile started out, right?
True.
Think of it. There were 16 teams in the NHL. Now there are 32. You used paper to write your scouting reports. Now you have computers. Back then you had basic stats. Now you have analytics and biometrics. The game has changed so much. The league has changed so much. And here he is at age 72, still going strong. And I think that part of it is just impressive. I mean, 3,000 games is an unbelievable milestone. I mean, the next closest GM is 300 games behind.
Wow. The way that the article starts, Abe Poile, owner of the team, it's year 2 as a GM. His team starts off losing 7 or 8 in a row, and he's summoned to see the owner. To think that the pressure, as much as things have changed, and great points by you, the urgency to win has been there throughout, and yet here he is at 3,000.
Well, for sure. I'm sure he's feeling it tonight. They've lost 4 in a row, right? But he starts out, it's his second year as a GM. This is his dream. It's what he's wanted to do. He's worked really hard to get the job. They lose 7 straight in his second season, and Abe Poile summons him to his house. And he's driving on the Beltway in Washington thinking, I'm going to get fired here. And it turns out that Abe Poile was giving him and Brian Murray a pep talk. They come back, win 7 of 8, and make the playoffs. And if you look at his record, you know, the Washington Capitals were in trouble as a franchise. They had not made the playoffs their first 8 seasons in the league. He shows up. They make the playoffs his first 14 seasons. He got fired when they missed for the first time, and then the next year they go to the Stanley Cup final. He decides to take over the Nashville Predators before they were even called the Predators, hadn't even entered the league yet. They missed the playoffs for the first 5 years. He builds them up to the 3rd best team in the league. Then they tear it down to cut payroll. He rebuilds them again. Since 2006-07, I believe, they have the 6th best record in the league. They've made the playoffs 15 times. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive especially when you consider the circumstances that he's operated under, the success that he's had.
Pretty long shadow cast by his father, too, builder, Hockey Hall of Famer. It's one thing to leave a job with the phone company. It's another thing to go into that business understanding what the standard was. That tells you what kind of a competitor David Poile is.
Well, there's a lot of elements. If you're going to, be a GM for 3,000 games, you have to have some luck. You have to have some connections, loyalty. He's had longer runway in his jobs than a lot of NHL GMs have had in theirs. There's a lot into this story, but, I think one of the greatest things about it and his ultimate legacy is the growth of the game. I mean, like father, like son. His father, Bud, was the first GM of the Flyers, the first GM of the Canucks, and now David Poile, the first and only GM of the Predators. It's been about growing the game. And I think that when you look at David's legacy, that's what he's put first. That's what he's ultimately going to be remembered for. And I think it's outstanding. Well, I started out in my career covering the Detroit Red Wings when the Predators entered the league. And back then, they had to explain penalties on the scoreboard. They would offer Red Wings fans who lived down there a Predators jersey if they'd switch from a Red Wings jersey. Now, Nashville's not a small, non-traditional market. Nashville's a destination.
Oh, yeah.
The place is packed on Broadway for the All-Star Game, for the Stanley Cup Final. It's going to be packed for the draft and the awards coming up the end of this year. The Stadium Series was outstanding, and David Poile has a lot to do with that.
That is wonderful praise. Well said. Nick Cotsonika, keep up the great work. We love your writing.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate that.